morning everyone, all my friends, Block 5. Today we are to follow our topic is should internet be censored, and me as a moderator.
My name is Kekal and I'm as a specialist.
And I'm Sikin as the adversary and the activist.
Okay, before we start, just a question for audience. One, can you guys give a type of censorship? Everyone.
Definition.
Definitions.
Censorship. What do you guys
What do you
understand
think?
about censorship?
Filtering not inappropriate contents.
And can you guys give a types of
Censorship.
censorship?
Types of censorship.
Zikir.
Okay.
Two types of censorship. The PG, PG 13 from movie for PG 16.
Okay, for the introduction. In today's modern era, internet has a revolution in how upgrade to communicate, get information and meetings with international people. Internet also part of important things in our daily life, such as working, education, and many more. However, the internet one of the harmful media because all the people will easily got fake news, nudity, and many more. This issue has been discussed should be internet be censored or not. Okay, for the point I will give to the first one is Azik.
My point number one, internet should be censored because number one, to protect the minors and for example, by implementing the age restriction. One of the essential reasons for web censorship is the security of children from explicit and harmful content. By implementing the filter and restriction, it is believed that access to inappropriate material can be limited, advancing a more secure online environment for young users. The statistic saying young people on social media is regularly exposed to violence, self-harm, profanity, swear words, porn, hate speech, and even violent live streams. Much of this content is not necessarily illegal, and during the pandemic, reports have found that 47% of children and teens have seen content that rather avoid, leaving them uncomfortable, scared, confused, and 61% of parents whose kids watching YouTube says their children has imported content they felt unsuitable for their children, which we need to censor the internet.
Thank you, Azik. And Sikit, what do you think about Azik Haikal's points?
So he said about the censorship can prevent harmful content from being exposed to minors. So my point is, some argue that censorship is not an effective. Oh, first of all, okay. So I want to talk about my survey. So I've interviewed about 12 people. So yes, many agree that the internet should be censored. Okay, because of their first thought is about the kids, the minors. So yeah, so not many people are aware of other institutions such as government censorship or education censorship. So from my conclusion, when I asked them about the censorship, they rarely talk about politics or advertisement or even in the public terms. So they are not fully aware. They are not fully aware about censorship yet, to some extent, and they say that some of them say that it is okay to censor some information, but not all. this is my argument for Haziq. Okay, so some argue that censorship is not an effective solution to protect children from harmful content online, as it can be easily bypassed or avoided and doesn't fix the main reason why the problem exists. So statistics show that 84% people, 84% parents believe that they should supervise their kids' media use rather than depending on censorship or filtering software, according to a Common Sense Media survey. So some child safety activists, such as the Center for Democracy and Technology, argue that censorship can be ineffective in protecting children from harmful content, and that education and parental guidance are more effective solutions. So that's my argument on why internet should not be censored to some extent.
Okay, thank you, Siken, for your statement. And then for the, we move to second point.
So by implementing the age restriction can also serve as tools for parents to manage and control their children's online activities. By implementing filters and restriction, parents can ensure that their children accessing age-appropriate content and minimize their exposure to potentially harmful material. For example, the Netflix. The account can be used. The setting can be set according to their age, so that the content suitable for their age, the kids.
So the responsibility is still on the parents though, right? I mean the app already did the censorship program, so it still depends on parents. So my second point. My second point is about cybercrimes. So some claim that censorship is not effective in reducing cybercrime because it restricts access to legal online services and makes it more difficult for law enforcement to find and bring criminals to justice. So according to a report by the Cyber Security and Infrastructure Security Agency, CISA, there were over 65,000 reported incidents of cybercrime in the United States in 2020. Moreover, an article by this group, Brunei reports 39% rise in cyber attacks in 2018, and Brunei Computer Emergency Response Team, says that many online scams trick citizens into sharing confidential information. Haji Mas Zuraimi bin Haji Abdul Hamid Sayyid Research, which deals with cyber security threats, reported 2,976 cyber attacks in 2018 compared to 2,143 cases in the previous year, which is 2017. So what I learned from searching this information, there are no recent data or statistics about the cyber attacks that happen in Brunei, because it restricts me to go into their website. So it can be both good and bad because, but I will focus on the bad side. It restricts my access to find more about cyber attacks in Brunei, which is makes my study more restricted because it limits the information. It doesn't allow the public to access. So some cyber security and law enforcement experts argue that censorship may actually make cyber crimes worse, and that a large-scale strategy or a mix of strategy involving technology, education, and collaboration is required to handle the issue. So So from my research, countries with the lowest internet freedom index scores by 2021, Bahrain and Russia is the least internet freedom, which so their information are very restricted, very limited compared with other countries. So another data, 1.72 billion people are affected by censorship any given day. 1.72 billion every day. Okay, that's my argument.
Okay, thank you, Sikin, for your points. What's it called? What do you think about Sikin?
By censoring the internet, we can defend our individual protection by directing the collection, storage, and spread of sensitive information. By imposing limitation, it gets to be more challenging for the criminals to abuse individual data for false purpose. For example, the scammers will easily get through our private data if we don't censor the internet. Around 2,328 cybercrime are thought to occur each day over the last 21 years, from 2001 to 2021. Cybercrime has claimed at least 6.5 million victims, with an estimated loss of nearly 26 billion over the same period. That is why we should censor the internet, so that there is less loss.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we move on the third point. What's it? For the third point?
So my third point, why we should censor the internet, is to limit the potential of sensitive topics. Proponents of internet censorship argue that it can help to limit discussion of sensitive topics by preventing the spread of harmful or extremist content that may incite violence and hate. For example, in some countries, internet censorship is used to block access to websites and social media platforms that promote terrorist ideologies or extremist views in an effort to prevent the radicalization of individuals. Statistics saying in Cuba, the 10th most censored country, the internet is available to only a small proportion of the population despite outside investment to bring the country online. China, despite having hundreds of millions of internet users, they maintain the Great Firewall to censor the internet and technology tools to block critical websites and rant in social media. And also in a country with advanced technology as China, such as China, internet restrictions are combined with a threat of imprisonment to ensure that critical voices cannot gain leverage online.
Thank you. Okay, second, what do you think? Ethical points for the third point?
So you're talking about sensitive topics, right?
Yes.
So for sensitive topics, some argue that censorship of sensitive topics can be pointless or worthless, as it can limit the expression or freedom and stop or block the ability of individuals and communities to challenge harmful or forceful ideas, oppression. So there is no specific statistic on this argument because it is difficult to measure the impact of censorship on free speech and democratic system. So a clear example is the situation with the COVID-19 pandemic. Wrong information about the virus and how it spreads has quickly spread online, even though social media platforms and governments have tried to block it. For instance, wrong statements about how well certain treatments work or where the virus came from keep spreading even though people are trying to delete them from social media sites. So another way false information can cause trouble is during elections. Social media platforms try to stop people from posting and sharing false information about the candidates or how the voting works. But wrong information can still spread through other ways, like messaging apps, example WhatsApp, or different social media platforms that don't follow the same censorship rules. Some experts in human rights and free expression, such as the American Civil Liberties Union, ACLU, argue that censorship can have a chilling effect, a discouraging or disappointing effect, especially one resulting from the restrictive law or regulation on free speech, and that it is important to protect the right to express opposing opinion, even if they are controversial or unpopular.
Okay, thank you again for your mind. And we will move on the fourth point. Okay. Fourth point is
So my fourth point is about privacy. Okay, so for the privacy, some argue that censorship is not an effective solution to protect people's privacy as it may limit access to valid online services and prevent the ability of the individuals to control their own data or information. According to our survey by the Pew Research Center, 93% of Americans believe that it is important to have control over their own personal information, such as their social security number or credit card information. Some privacy advocates, such as the Electronic Privacy Information Center, EPIC, argue that censorship can be ineffective in protecting people's privacy, and that it is important to focus on the transparency or straightforwardness, the responsibility or concern, and user control over data and information.
okay. Thank you Sikin for the basic. Think about the statement.
The privacy.
What do you think?
I already argue about the privacy, so now I will argue about to prevent the false information to be spread out. People by not censoring the internet, misleading information online. An accurate or completely made up complaints about the 5G and origin of COVID-19 have been linked to violence and vandalism. For example, Twitter could limit the breadth of sharing on its site by limiting how many people seen the retweet in their Twitter feeds. Both Facebook and WhatsApp, two apps owned by parent company Meta, that allows users to message each other, have used methods similar to the research model to limit the spread of misinformation. In 2020, Facebook has announced limits on how many people or groups users could forward messages to, keeping it at 5 in part of combat misinformation about COVID-19 and voting. And earlier that year, WhatsApp introduced similar limits prohibiting its more than 2 billion users from forwarding message to more than 5 people at once. With that, censorship should implemented because so that the misleading information is not spread out.
Okay, thank you Zainal for the fifth point and second.
So since Azeka already talked about the privacy, the one I've explained before. And then I will talk about okay, about false information also, but in another perspective, since I've already explained it before. Argument against his point. So we will talk about the effectiveness of censorship. Okay, some critics of internet censorship to prevent the spread of false information argue that it is not an effective solution to the problem. False information can be spread through many channels, not just the internet, and censorship policies can be easily bypassed or avoided. Okay. In terms of government control, another reason why internet censorship to stop the spread of false information is not a good idea, because it allows governments to have too much power on deciding what information is accessible to the public. Censorship rules can be misused or manipulated to silence or promote certain voices according to the government's agenda. Some people believe that when the government controls information, it can make people afraid and doubtful, which is bad for democracy and human rights. According to a study by the Pew Research Center, the majority of Americans, 64%, believe that censorship is not the effective way to prevent the spread of false information. The study found that most people believe that education, media literacy, or in another word, the ability to understand and analyze the information presented through various forms of media, such as television, radio, and social media, and fact-checking are more effective solutions to the problem. A recent report by Freedom House shows that internet freedom has been getting worse for the past 10 years. Governments are now using censorship more often to control the information available on the internet. The report discovered that when censorship is used, it can cause problems for democracy, human rights, and economic growth. So, Rebecca McKinnon, a journalist and expert on internet freedom, argues that censorship can be unsuccessful and that it is important to promote media literacy and critical thinking skills. In an article for CNN, she wrote, "Censorship is not an effective way to combat or handle false information. In fact, it can make the problem worse by creating an information vacuum that it is filled with even more rumors and speculation." And that is why internet should not be censored. So that's my point.
Before I move on to point number 5, I want to ask the audience, how many of you guys cross the random ads on the social media? And the random
Cross?
ads that pops up.
Cross? Was
Yeah.
it cross?
No,
The
the
pop-ups?
random ads, yeah.
Yeah. So we cross it?
No,
So will we watch it?
yeah.
You're asking us whether we watch it or we exit?
No.
I'm lost.
So when you enter a website, there's a random pop-up.
Pop up?
How
Have
many
you
of us
ever?
has experienced that?
Oh, how many experience? Yeah. Doesn't everybody?
So almost all of you.
Yeah, it's
So my point number 5 is random ads that came out randomly, which affects the adults. For example, the goal of gambling ads is to get people to gamble more or start gambling. Statistics saying that advertising taglines by these companies are created with the intention of getting the viewer hooked on the idea of placing bets. One advertising headline by DraftKings reads, "There is room for you to in the land of the millionaire," implying that sport betting can turn you into a millionaire. Another offers, play up to 200 risk-free for your first 24 hours. This makes it easy for the players to get hooked and continue to play the gamble. And after they have spent their free credit, the reality is sportbook and bookies make their money off to the gamblers' losers, which means they don't even make it easier. That's why implementing internet censorship, for example, Surfshark and Clean Web features, it removes non-adware and spyware ads from your browsers and application, giving your private data an extra layers of protection.
Thank you for the point.
I think his point is related with the cybercrime. So it's still people's option whether or not they want to continue the activity,
But
because it is their own choice. Yes, most people would probably skip, but what if some people are desperate for money, and then even if with the censorship, they will still proceed? Okay. Okay, that's my point of view. Okay, so you've already made your argument, so I'm gonna explain about the activist bit. Okay? So for the activists, I'm gonna talk about just 3 points. So for the activists, activists generally oppose internet censorship and argue that it can have a serious negative consequences for human rights, freedom of expression, and democracy. So here are some of the key arguments made by activists. So I'm gonna elaborate just 3. First, violation of human rights. Activists argue that internet censorship violates basic human rights, including freedom of speech, access to information, and privacy. They claim that these rights are important for a free and open society and that censorship weakens this value. Statistics show that in 2021, about 73% of people who use the internet live in the countries where the government limits what they can access online. The report says that internet freedom has been getting worse for 11 years in a row. Governments are making rules that restrict people's ability to express themselves online. According to David Kay, former United Nations Special Rapporteur on the promotion and protection of the right to freedom of opinion and expression, internet content regulation almost always violates freedom of expression norms and principles. So number 2, political repression. Activists argue that internet censorship is often used as a tool or device of political control, allowing governments to control the flow of information and silence the opposing voice. They argue that censorship can be used to hide political opposition and limit free speech and restrict public debate. A report from the OpenNet, so according to Rebecca McKinnon, a director of the Ranking Digital Rights Project, governments are increasingly using the internet to control what their citizens can and cannot see, and to monitor what they do online, what they say and do online. So for my last point, technological limitations. So supporters or advocates argue that trying to control what people can do on the internet is not very useful and can be easily avoided by people who are good with technology. They argue that censorship can be easily avoided using tools like VPNs, and that trying to censor the internet can result in a game of a hide and seek between the censors and those trying to get around the censorship. Filtering technologies can accidentally block legitimate websites or content because they are connected to certain words or topics. This can make it difficult to get information and services like healthcare and education. Gillian York, which is in charge of protecting freedom of speech at the Electronic Frontier Foundation, says that the tools used to block unwanted content can make mistakes and stop things that should be allowed. She also believes that when information and freedom of speech are restricted, governments can avoid being held responsible and transparent for their actions. Censorship can restrict the public's access to information. So those are some of the points that activists used to argue against internet censorship. So they recommend that we should work hard to make sure people have the freedom to use the internet, and that there is transparency and accountability. They also want to stand against any kind of censorship. So that is all my argument for the activist view.
Thank you. Okay, for the next, we move to audience. The question is, what do you think about should internet be censored? Audience, anyone? Before I pick. Come on, guys.
Audience, do you think?
5 seconds. 4, 3.
That while the audience is processing their thoughts, perhaps a lot of information, So, but like everything else, when we absorb and when we digest, we don't just take them raw. So the audience, you're also in the position of arranging the information also, all right, so that you can develop your own insight on the matter. But certainly a lot, okay, a lot. So I hope the audience has jotted down information also. I mean, just in terms of preparation, but also for our own knowledge also, perhaps. All right, so audience, anything to say, anything to ask, anything to add to the discussion already mentioned?
No?
Anything?
If no, we will. No?
Conclusion?
Yeah.
No?
Not anyone?
It'll be interesting to hear your conclusion, Riselme. Yes, because I don't, audience, I'm part of the audience, I'm not giving comments as a teacher. I think the audience would appreciate if you could if you had some kind of your own perception, yes, on what was already shared. Let's see.
Conclusion.
Yeah.
Okay, for the conclusion, as a summary for the novel.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay. No, it's alright. Is it not bad? But is it still
Yeah,
on?
no.
Really? Okay, so I should low power mode. So it's still going on. Okay.
As a summary for the three perspectives, as Azad argued, internet censorship is encouraged because the three are so many explicit or violence content or advertisement which is harmful for children, to reduce cybercrimes, to limit potential of sensitive topics, to protect people's privacy, and to prevent the spread of false information. Meanwhile, CK did the opposite view and have explained in the terms of the public's concerns. These statistics show the bad things that happen when the internet is censored. It means we need to work on giving people more freedom to say what they want online. We should also help people make good choice about the things they see on the internet. It is important to remember that people can make a good arguments on the both sides of the debate about controlling what is on the internet. Some people think that censorship can be helpful for safety, privacy, and accuracy, whilst others say it can be harm freedom of expression, innovation, and democracy. In general, some people say censorship is needed to keep people safe from bad stuff. But the bad things that happen because of censorship are usually worse than any good it might do. Instead, we should concentrate on encouraging people to use the internet responsibly and helping them make smart choice about the things they see and they read online. That's all from us, and thank you for your listening and your consideration. I hope it's helpful for everyone.
All right. Okay, hold on.